I'm the guy in the office who never makes a scene, which is why it still shocks me that one stupid party almost cost me my job and won out $850 I never agreed to spend. If you've ever watched three smiling coworkers turn into a debt collection agency with name badges, you'll understand how fast team celebration becomes financial hostage situation. Here's my confession. I like making things easy for other people. I'm the one who fixes the printer jam without announcing it, who orders the sheet cake with the right spelling on the VP's name, who labels the serving tongs at potlucks so nobody puts buffalo wings on the fruit platter. I don't do it for credit. I do it because it keeps the day moving. So when our marketing director asked for a volunteer to coordinate the annual office party, my hand went up before my brain weighed the consequences. In my head, coordinate meant picking a date, booking a room, and creating a sign-up sheet. What it actually meant was absorb the chaos of 50 adults who think RSVP is optional and budget is a rumor. I booked a back room at a mid-range restaurant 2 blocks from the office. Nothing fancy. String lights, decent food, pitchers instead of bottles, soft cap on the bar tab, and a manager who said he'd help me keep it under the modest budget finance approved. I set expectations in writing. Food covered, first round on the company. Anything premium or extra is on you. I even bolded that part. I printed table cards with the same message in case enthusiasm drowned reading comprehension later. The plan felt adult, controlled, affordable. I wanted people to relax, not audition for a tax audit. Enter the trio from sales operations. Let's call them the committee that nobody elected. There's Brittany, who weaponizes friendliness and calls every questionable choice iconic. There's Connor, a loud laugh in human form who thinks we'll figure it out is a legal strategy. And there's Jean, who has never once allowed a small plan to remain small. The three of them weren't on my email thread, hadn't signed up for anything, and did not read the budget. They did, however, stop by my desk 3 days before the party, with iced coffees and the word collab in their eyes. "Mike, babe, we love the vibe," Brittany said, tapping my Google Doc with a neon nail. "But we were thinking, what if we upgraded the energy, like a signature cocktail, balloons, a DJ? We know a guy." I should have said no immediately. Instead, I explained the cap, the approvals, the part where finance physically printed a number and highlighted it like a parking ticket. They did the thing where they nodded while not listening. "Totally," Connor said. "We'll handle the extras and just split it fair. You're doing so much, let us pitch in." I repeated that people could buy extras for themselves, but the company wasn't paying beyond the cap. Jean smiled a careful smile and said, "Of course not." And I wanted to believe her. I really did. The day of the party, I arrived early to check the room. The manager, Luis, greeted me like a man bracing for weather. "Your coworkers were here at lunch," he said. "They prearranged some add-ons. They said you were the point of contact?" "No," I said, heartbeat tapping at my throat. "What add-ons?" Luis led me to the back. In place of the simple setup I'd confirmed, there was a rented neon sign spelling our company name, helium balloons the size of small moons, and a theme table with a handwritten chalkboard, signature cocktails, the Q4 Spritz, the Pipeline Paloma, the KPI Martini. There was also an extra sound system and a tip jar already seated with suspiciously crisp bills. A man in a black t-shirt with a small mixer nodded at me. "I'm DJ Mono," he said. "Jean told me to invoice you." I forced air into my lungs and found the committee at the bar, clinking glasses. "You changed the plan," I said, keeping my voice even. "Who was paying for all this?" "Relax," Brittany sang. "We negotiated. It's going to be epic." "On whose card?" She tilted her head as if the question were impolite. "They said you're the coordinator. It's just easiest for billing." I looked at Luis, who looked back at me with the tired compassion of a man who has seen many office parties and too many coordinators. "We can hold a card and settle line items later," he said. "But I need a card." I should have walked away and called off the extra nonsense on the spot. But people were arriving. The CEO had RSVP'd. Yes, and the thought of 5 managers watching me publicly argue about balloons made my stomach flip. I handed over my personal card with a single instruction. Charge the pre-approved package to the company invoice. Any add-ons go on a separate check. I'm not authorizing those. Luis nodded. Separate checks. Got it. The party worked. That's the infuriating part. People laughed, ate, and posted too many photos. The DJ kept the volume 1 notch below. HR violation. The signature cocktails were sugary but photogenic. I walked the room refilling water, moving platters, and quietly replacing a carving knife someone abandoned near a toddler. The director gave a short toast that credited whoever organized this without looking at me. It was fine. It was fine until it wasn't. At 9:40, when the crowd thinned and the neon hummed like a tired beehive, Luis brought me 2 folios. One showed the company-approved package, under budget. The other contained a stroke disguised as paper, a breakdown of extras that included the DJ, premium liquor upgrades, rented decor, another round of shots for the table, and an event coordination fee that must have been invented at a brunch. Total damage on the extras. Betamites turned him $50 before tip. Attached sticky note in looping handwriting. Will Venmo. B.C.J. I found them near the photo backdrop, doing that backward lean that means the night is over and the story is being written. No, I said, holding the folio. I'm not paying this. I didn't approve any of it. It's not paying, it's fronting, Connor said, like that was an adult word. We'll split evenly. It's what, like $30 each? Try 600 and change, I said. They blinked as a unit. A beat passed where you could hear the refrigeration hum behind the bar. That's an investment in morale, John tried. We can't nickel and dime culture. Then you should have invested your own money, I said. I sent 3 emails. The budget was explicit. You made choices outside of it. You can pay the vendor directly or take the decor home. Brittany's smile thinned. This is really negative energy, Mike. It's my credit line. Louise stood at a respectful distance, the way bartenders do when they're not sure if they're watching a breakup or a performance review. I asked him to separate every add-on into a new folio addressed to Sales Ops Committee. He did it with the calm of a surgeon. The committee stared at the total, like it might apologize. They whispered. They swore the DJ had promised a friend's rate. They tried for a good long while to turn the situation into a group problem that would dissolve if I hugged it long enough. I didn't move. Finally, Brittany said, light and deadly, if you're going to be selfish about this, we'll take it up with HR. You're undermining team events. Please do, I said, because the alternative was handing over rent money to fund a DJ setlist that included 4 Pitbull songs. We cleaned up. People left. I signed the company folio with a clean conscience and the personal one with a big empty space where a signature would have gone. I walked home with the kind of tired that has a moral backbone. I slept badly. At 9:07 a.m. the next morning, I got a calendar invite from HR for concern, event conduct, and cost allocation. The subject line included my name. The invite listed 3 attendees from HR and, like a punchline with security badges, Brittany, Connor, and Jean. When HR calls you before your first coffee, you already know the day's going to taste like burnt toast. The subject line, concern, event conduct, and cost allocation, sat in my inbox like a loaded weapon. I clicked it once, twice, hoping maybe I'd misread it. Nope. The invite was real. The 3 people who had hijacked the party were CC'd, and the note said, we'd like to discuss some concerns raised by your colleagues regarding inappropriate handling of company funds and interpersonal conduct at the recent event. Inappropriate handling of funds. Interpersonal conduct. Translation, they're trying to hang you for the bill. I took a deep breath, grabbed a notepad, and opened my email archive, like a soldier checking ammunition. Every message I'd sent about the budget, every confirmation from finance, every line I'd highlighted about No extra costs without approval. It was all there. I printed them. Actual paper. I was ready to walk into that conference room like it was a courtroom. At 10 a.m., I stepped into HR. The air smelled like overbrewed coffee and disinfectant wipes. There was Karen from HR, a woman who smiles like she's been trained to, and the trio across from her. Brittany's hair was curled to perfection. Connor had that fake relaxed posture people use when they're hiding panic. Jean was scrolling her phone, pretending this was beneath her. Karen smiled tightly. Mike, thanks for joining. We just want to get everyone's perspective about what happened at the event. No greeting, no small talk. Just that tone. Brittany started, voice trembling like she was doing a dramatic reading. It was supposed to be a team celebration, but Mike, well, he kind of took control of everything. Then after the event, he refused to split the cost. We all thought it was agreed that we'd contribute evenly. Now the restaurant's calling about the unpaid balance, and it's creating a bad look for the company. Karen nodded, scribbling. Mm-mm. And Mike, your side? I looked straight at her. I coordinated the event under an approved company budget. I have documentation confirming what was covered and what wasn't. Any additional charges were made without authorization by them. I didn't approve those expenses and I didn't sign for them. Luis, the restaurant manager, can confirm. Jean scoffed. Come on, Mike. You're the one who gave them your card. You said you'd handle it. I said I'd handle the approved part, I replied. Everything else, your DJ, your neon sign, your bar upgrades, that was never cleared. I told you that multiple times. Karen raised a hand. Let's keep it professional, please. Connor leaned forward, trying for charm. Look, we just thought it was a team thing, you know? Like everyone pitches in. But he made a big scene about it. It was really awkward. Awkward. I almost laughed. These people had hijacked the budget, charged me nearly $2,000, and were now painting me as the villain because I didn't want to subsidize their tequila-fueled networking hour. Karen, I said evenly, I'd like to show you something. I slid a printed email thread across the table. Bolded subject line, final budget approval, office party. In black and white. Reminder, the company covers up to $600 total. Any additional purchases are personal expenses and must not be charged to company or employee accounts. Then my own follow-up email. Please confirm you've read and agreed to this. Brittany's reply sat right there, timestamped 3 days before the party. Totally fine. Can't wait. Karen's eyes flicked up from the page. Did you all see this email? Jean's jaw tightened. That was a draft. We were still planning. Connor looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. We thought it'd be reimbursed later. Did finance approve that? I asked. Silence. Karen sighed. All right. I'll reach out to the restaurant for a verification. Mike, thank you for providing these. We'll review and follow up. The meeting ended quietly with HR's version of, we'll get back to you, which everyone knows really means we're going to check who's lying. The trio avoided my eyes as we left the room. Brittany muttered something like, you didn't have to make it formal. I didn't answer. By lunchtime, the office buzz was back at full volume. I could feel whispers trailing me like cigarette smoke. HR meetings always travel faster than the actual facts. In every break-room conversation, I was either a cheapskate or a tattletale, depending on who you asked. That afternoon, Luis from the restaurant called me directly. Hey, Mike, just wanted to say, I talked to someone from your HR. I confirmed exactly what happened. Those three came in early, ordered everything, told me to put it on your account. Said you'd clear it later. He paused. We already reversed the extra charges, by the way. I charged the balance to their cards. They left their details with the DJ contract. Figured you should know. My relief was physical. My shoulders dropped like I'd just dropped a backpack full of bricks. Thank you, Luis. Seriously, he chuckled. I've seen worse. You're not the first guy to get stuck with party freeloaders, but you're the first one who actually had receipts. When I hung up, my inbox pinged again. HR, subject line, follow-up on event meeting. Thank you for your cooperation, Mike. After verifying with the vendor, we've confirmed that the disputed expenses were unauthorized. No further action will be taken regarding your conduct. And then the cherry on top. However, we will be speaking separately with the other employees regarding policy adherence and expense misconduct. I leaned back in my chair, exhaled, and finally smiled. For the first time in a week, I thought it was over, but I underestimated them, because when people like that lose face, they don't apologize. They double down. By Friday, my team's Slack channel was full of passive-aggressive comments about some people who don't understand collaboration. Brittany unfollowed me on LinkedIn, Connor deleted me from the fantasy football group, and Jean posted a meme that said, "Trust issues start when someone brings receipts to HR." I laughed it off until Monday morning when my boss called me into his office with the words that make your stomach drop. "Mike, HR's looking into a new complaint. It's about you again," he sighed. "They're saying you created a hostile work environment." And just like that, the real war started. I sat in the hallway outside HR with my coffee going cold, trying to understand how refusing to pay for someone else's booze had evolved into creating a hostile work environment. There was a moment, right before Karen called me back in, where I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how perfectly absurd it was. 3 people had racked up an $1-850 tab, lied about it, got caught, and now they were pivoting to victim mode. When I walked in, Karen was there again, joined by a new face, Alex, a higher-ranking HR partner. That's never a good sign. He had the look of a man who'd seen every possible corporate scandal and stopped being surprised by any of them. Karen started soft. "Mike, we've received additional feedback from your colleagues. They claim that since the incident, you've created an atmosphere of intimidation and exclusion." "Intimidation?" I repeated, setting down my coffee. "I've barely spoken to them since HR confirmed the facts." Alex interjected, his tone measured. "They allege that you've been giving them looks in meetings, refusing to collaborate, and that you made a comment implying they might regret lying about the expenses." I blinked. "Did they also mention that they accused me of theft, had me investigated, and posted memes about me on the team Slack?" Karen and Alex exchanged a glance that said, "We know, but we have to ask." I opened my notebook. I've documented every interaction since the party. Date, time, content. I haven't spoken to them except for work purposes. Here's a printout of the Slack messages they've posted, publicly by the way, about me being a snitch. I slid the pages across the table. Alex took them, skimming quickly. He didn't react much, but I saw his eyebrows lift slightly at one post from Jean that read, "Some people's idea of teamwork, HR reports, and moral superiority." Karen exhaled. "Mike, thank you. This helps clarify things," but I could tell from her tone that HR wasn't done. They weren't after truth, they were after containment. HR's job is never really about who's right. It's about stopping noise that makes leadership uncomfortable. After the meeting, I walked out into the corridor and saw Brittany at the printer. She smiled. Tight, sharp, fake. "Wow, another HR meeting? You must really love that office." I didn't answer. She leaned closer, whispering, "You could have just split the bill, Mike. None of this would have happened." I looked at her and said quietly, "You're right. None of this would have happened. If you knew what integrity was." Her face froze for half a second before she turned away. That night, I went home and did something that most people never think to do. I backed up everything. Every email, every chat, every expense report. I downloaded logs, screenshots, invoices. I made a timeline, one I could hand to HR or to my boss, or, if necessary, to an attorney. I wasn't going to let them rewrite the story again. A week passed. HR called me once more. This time not to question, but to inform. "Mike, we've concluded the internal review," Karen said. "We found no evidence of misconduct on your part. However, we do recommend that all parties attend a conflict resolution session to rebuild trust." I almost laughed. "You're asking me to sit in a room with people who tried to frame me for fraud? It's part of our team culture initiative." she replied mechanically. Then you might want to update your culture, I said, because right now it rewards dishonesty. She didn't respond. But here's the thing. When you're calm, organized, and backed by facts, corporate bullies get nervous. Because they can't twist documentation. They can't manipulate screenshots. Over the next few days, something shifted. The trio started avoiding me in the hallways. Connor's usual booming laugh went quiet. Jean stopped posting memes. Brittany, well, she doubled down on pretending she was unbothered, but her smile cracked every time she saw my boss chatting with me. Then one morning, my manager, Daniel, called me into his office. He closed the door, dropped his voice, and said, HR briefed me. I just wanted you to know I'm aware of what's been going on. I braced myself. He smiled. Actually smiled. You handled this exactly right. You kept records, stayed calm, and didn't retaliate. I wish more people had your sense. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until that moment. Thank you, I said. Also, Daniel continued, we're reorganizing departments. There's an opening for a project lead role in operations. It's a step up, salary bump, autonomy, smaller team. I'd like you to apply. I blinked. Isn't that Brittany's department? He nodded. Exactly. When I walked back to my desk, the trio was huddled together, whispering. The tension in the air felt electric. Brittany looked up at me, probably expecting a glare, but I just smiled. A calm, deliberate smile that said, I'm still standing, and you're not done falling. Yet. Over the next week, I went through the formal interview process for the new role. HR sat in on it, awkward and quiet, clearly aware of how much of the situation had been self-inflicted. The last interview ended with Daniel saying, We'll announce next week. On Friday, the announcement came out company-wide. Internal promotion. Congratulations to Mike R., our new operations project lead. The email went out to the entire office. Within 10 minutes, Brittany's Slack status changed to offline. Connor left early. Jean didn't show up on Monday, but karma wasn't done yet, because when HR schedules follow-up sessions for misconduct, those aren't just meetings. They're warnings. And when the next quarter's performance reviews came around, only one of us got a raise. Spoiler, it wasn't them. Still, I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because karma has a sense of timing, and hers was about to make the whole office watch what accountability really looks like. When the company email went out announcing my promotion, I didn't expect applause, but I didn't expect the silence either. The kind of silence where everyone suddenly remembers they have something deeply important to read on their monitors. You could feel the air shift. The same people who had whispered about me being dramatic now avoided eye contact, like guilt was contagious. By 10 a.m., my inbox was full of polite congratulations, the corporate version of, we didn't see anything, but we know you won. The only message that actually meant something came from Daniel, my manager. Mike, you earned this, not because of what they did, but because of how you handled it. Remember that. I did remember. Because this promotion wasn't just a new title. It was the company's silent admission that I had been right all along. That afternoon, I had to sit through the official handover meeting. It was supposed to be professional and smooth. Instead, it was 3 uncomfortable chairs, a stale conference room, and the very same trio, Brittany, Jean, and Connor, pretending to be gracious. Brittany spoke first, smiling like she'd swallowed a lemon. Congratulations, Mike. Guess you'll be running our team now. I hope there's no hard feelings. I met her gaze, calm and steady. None at all. As long as we're clear about one thing. Accountability isn't personal. It's just overdue. The silence that followed was beautiful. Jean shifted in her seat. So, what's the plan for Q2 events? I smiled. We'll have one. But this time the budget will be approved through me directly. No surprises, no DJs, no personal cards. Transparent from start to finish. Connor tried to laugh. So, no open bar? Not unless HR wants to host it, I said. They didn't laugh after that. By the end of that week, word had spread. The sales ops trio had been reassigned. It wasn't a firing. Companies never call it that. Officially, they were transitioning to new roles within the organization. Unofficially, they'd been demoted to internal support, far from client contact, far from budgets, far from me. The next Monday, Daniel called me into his office again. He looked unusually relaxed. "I thought you'd like to know," he said, leaning back in his chair. HR finished their investigation into that second complaint. Turns out all three of them admitted, off the record, that they might have overreacted. One of them even tried to claim it was a joke that got out of hand. I raised an eyebrow. "Which one?" He smiled. "Does it matter?" It didn't. Karma doesn't need names. It just keeps score. A few weeks later, the new fiscal quarter started. I organized a small, officially approved celebration for my new team. Nothing fancy, just a catered lunch in the conference room. When the food arrived, everyone gathered, chatting, laughing, easy. For once, it actually felt like teamwork. And then, poetic as it gets, Brittany walked by the glass wall outside. She slowed down, pretending she was just passing through. Our eyes met for half a second. I didn't wave. I didn't smirk. I just looked at her. Calm, professional, unbothered. Because the truth is, revenge stops mattering the moment justice finishes the job for you. By the end of that quarter, our department hit record numbers. HR sent a company-wide memo praising the improved communication culture and renewed sense of integrity. My boss laughed when he read it aloud in the meeting. "Integrity, huh? I wonder where they learned that one." But the best part came a month later, when finance hosted a training session on, you guessed it, ethical expense management. The slides included a case study titled, "The Importance of Documentation and Budget Accountability." The story sounded familiar, very familiar. The punchline? The example employee's name was Mark. Same story, different name. I sat there sipping my coffee while Karen from HR read the slide out loud about unauthorized spending leading to disciplinary reassignment. She never looked directly at me, but I saw the corners of her mouth twitch. After the meeting, Daniel patted me on the shoulder. "Corporate karma," he said quietly. "Always late, never lost." I thought about everything. The humiliation, the meetings, the accusations, the silence. And I realized something. I hadn't just survived it. I'd rewritten it. The next time someone tried to gossip about the office party fiasco, the story was different. Now I was the guy who stood up, who kept receipts, who didn't cave when people tried to turn kindness into weakness. And maybe that's the real ending. Not the promotion, not the demotions, not even the satisfaction of seeing karma unfold. It's the quiet kind of justice where you don't have to say, "I told you so." You just show up every day, do your job better than ever, and let their own actions write the ending for you. Because in the end, I didn't need revenge. I just needed time. And time gave me everything they tried to take.